Here we are, Chapter 8, Professional Competence and Training. So this chapter is going to be something that pertains to everyone because all of you guys are going into some sort of helping profession or human services field. And so it's important to understand what competencies will be expected of you in order to perform your job at a level that's acceptable in the field and that's acceptable to any licensing agency that oversees a license that you may acquire or maintain. And then we'll discuss some training as well, why training is important, professional developments. This keyword therapist competency here really focuses on therapists per se, but we want to look at a general terminology for that. And really what it means is what do you need to know in order to perform the job functions at a level that is going to be beneficial to the client and demonstrate your ability to understand the field. So in order to do that, we have to go through training, education, experience. And so it really has to do with, as well, our ability to, what it says here, render effective assessment or treatment in a specific area. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because you're going to learn about this as you move forward in your career path. Those of you that are going into counseling, like AODA counseling or mental health counseling, there's going to be competencies that you need to address as you move into those specific areas. In order to receive your AODA license, what's called a SACIT, Substance Abuse Counselor in Training, there are educational requirements that you have to meet, and there are competencies that you have to be able to demonstrate your ability to perform with a clinical supervisor. And the clinical supervisor will sign off on those hours, and then that's what gets submitted to the state in order to obtain your SACIT. And then you have substance abuse counselor, CSAC, or clinical substance abuse counselor, mental health side, LPC licensed professional counselor, LCSW, and then clinical social worker. So, and that's just the areas that I'm familiar with. I'm sure in other areas there are licensing requirements and credentialing that you'll have to go through. So as we look at competence, an ethical and legal concept, it's from an ethical perspective, competence is required of practitioners if they are to protect and serve their clients. All right, and then it gives you the legal standpoint. Incompetent practitioners are vulnerable to malpractice suits and can be held legally responsible in the court of law. It's very important that you understand what competencies are expected of you when you're working in the field of helping others, especially if there are licensing credentialing requirements. If you don't abide by the competencies, you open yourself up, you open your agency up that you work for, and you open up your clinical supervisor or other supervisor up to liability in those areas. All right, we have formative assessment, summative assessment. So these are assessments that help determine your qualifications, your abilities as you work in your career. A lot of times something like a formative assessment may be like a annual review. I use those with my employees that each year I'm required to give feedback on that employee's performance over the year. And so I focus on several areas. I believe there's 9 or 10, maybe more than that, maybe 11 or 12 areas that I have to focus on and think through and get feedback from other sources as well as from the employee to find out kind of what their performance has been when working with clients. All right. Psychological fitness has to do with your mental health in terms of working with clients emotionally. Are you emotionally stable? You have good self-awareness. So those are important things to consider as well. All right. Just go through here. Now, you may specialize in a specific area of expertise, and it's important that you know what your limitations are and you're able to make referrals to other resources that are outside of that expertise area. All right, so usually the schooling is very specific for counselors depending upon what type of counselor, what type of helper you want to be. And so it's important that when you decide, make that determination, you're going to look at the competencies that are required and you're going to stay within those competencies. The last thing you want to do is try and work with someone who has maybe impairments or other difficulties that you're not trained to help with. That's another area that can really open you up to liability. And a perfect example of that is I have substance abuse counselors, and when they encounter a client that has some significant or presenting what seems to be some significant mental health concerns, they will make a referral to our mental health professional, or will make a referral to another mental health resource that can further assess and diagnose if needed. So we always stay within our realm of ability and where we're trained at. All right, we've kind of talked about certification, licensure, AODA side. You have the SAC at SAC and CSACs, and then you have the mental health side, LPC, LCSW, are probably the two main popular licenses, I should say. All right. Your chapter discusses some ethical issues in training therapists, what types of people programs should accept for education purposes, because not everyone is cut out to be a therapist, not everyone is cut out to work in the helping profession. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just something that you need to recognize in yourself, and if that is you, then it's best to recognize that and you know, either work with that or move in a different direction. All right. So I think we're going to stop there. I'm just making sure I've covered what I wanted to cover. We covered professional licensing and credentialing. Okay, demonstrating competencies. Competencies are huge. Even you find out in the courses and the program that you're involved in here at NTC, that there are specific competencies that you're going to need to demonstrate, and there's competencies even in this course that you're going to have to demonstrate your understanding of. So competencies are never going away, and they're always going to be a part of your education and your professional life as well if you're going to stay in the helping field. And really, probably for that matter, any profession. You're going to have continuing education that you're going to have to engage in and continue to grow professionally, because research changes on how we interact with clients and how we help clients, and it's important for us to be on the forefront of that and have that knowledge available to our clients. All right, so with that, we are done with Chapter 8. And as always, if you have questions, concerns, please let me know. I'll see you in the next learning plan.